Have you ever wondered why some people seem to have amazing relationships while others struggle? The answer might surprise you. It's not about trying to change others or finding the perfect partner. The real secret is something much closer to home. It's all about you. One of the most powerful ideas that can change our relationships forever is Louise Hay's principle of focusing on yourself. This isn't about being selfish or ignoring others. It's about understanding that the key to great relationships starts with how you treat yourself. This idea doesn't involve complicated techniques or trying to control other people. Instead, it's about changing how you see yourself and your place in the world. Think about it for a moment. How often have you tried to change someone else, hoping it would make your relationship better? Maybe you've wished your partner would be more attentive or your friend would be more reliable. But no matter how hard you try, changing others rarely works. That's because we can't control other people. We can only control ourselves. Now, you might be thinking, how can focusing on myself improve my relationships with others? It sounds backward, doesn't it? But here's the thing. When you focus on improving yourself, becoming happier, and loving yourself more, something magical happens. Your relationships naturally start to get better. Imagine you're looking in a mirror. The reflection you see is like your relationships. If you're unhappy with what you see, you might try to change the reflection directly, but that's impossible, right? The only way to change what you see in the mirror is to change yourself. Your relationships work the same way. They reflect back to you how you feel about yourself. So if you don't change how you think about yourself, your relationships won't get better. You'll keep seeing the same patterns, the same problems over and over again. It can feel like you're stuck in a loop, unable to break free. But there's good news. If you learn to focus on yourself, to love and accept yourself, you'll see amazing changes in all your relationships. Now let's talk about why this is so important. Relationships are a big part of our lives. They can bring us joy, support, and love. But when they're not going well, they can also be a source of stress, sadness, and frustration. Bad relationships can affect every part of our lives, our health, our work, our happiness. If you keep trying to change others and ignore your own growth, you might find yourself feeling more and more unhappy. You might start to believe that good relationships are just not possible for you. This can lead to feeling lonely, even when you're surrounded by people. You might give up on the idea of having deep, meaningful connections with others, but it doesn't have to be this way. When you start focusing on yourself, amazing things can happen. You'll start to feel more confident and happy with who you are. This confidence and self-love will shine through in all your interactions. People will be drawn to your positive energy. You'll find it easier to set healthy boundaries, communicate your needs, and understand others. The best part? This change can affect all your relationships, not just romantic ones. Your friendships can become deeper and more meaningful. Your family relationships can improve. Even your work relationships can get better. It's like a ripple effect, spreading out to touch every part of your life. Before we dive deeper into how to focus on yourself, let's talk about where this idea comes from. Louise Hay was a remarkable woman who helped millions of people improve their lives and relationships. She wasn't always a famous author and teacher, though. Her own life was full of challenges that many of us can relate to. Louise had a tough childhood. She faced abuse and hardship that left her feeling worthless and unlovable. As an adult, she struggled with bad relationships and health problems. But instead of giving up, Louise decided to learn how to love herself. She discovered that by changing her thoughts and beliefs about herself, she could change her life. Louise Hay became known for her ideas about positive thinking and self-love. She wrote books, gave lectures, and taught people how to improve their lives by changing their thoughts. One of her most powerful ideas was that our relationship with ourselves is the foundation for all our other relationships. Louise believed that the thoughts we think and the words we say to ourselves are incredibly powerful. She taught that by loving ourselves and thinking positive thoughts, we could heal our lives and improve our relationships. Her most famous book, You Can Heal Your Life, has helped millions of people around the world. What made Louise's ideas so powerful was that they were simple and practical. She didn't use complicated language or hard-to-understand concepts. Instead, she offered straightforward advice that anyone could use. Her approach to relationships was the same. Focus on loving yourself first, and the rest will follow. Louise Hay's principle of focusing on yourself in relationships comes from this background. She discovered through her own life experiences that trying to change others doesn't work. Instead, when we work on loving and accepting ourselves, our relationships naturally improve. This idea might seem too simple to be true. After all, we're often taught that good relationships require hard work and compromise. And while those things are important, Louise Hay showed us that the real foundation of good relationships is how we treat ourselves. Think about it this way. If you don't love and respect yourself, how can you expect others to love and respect you? If you're constantly criticizing yourself, you might find that you're overly critical of others too. But when you learn to be kind and loving to yourself, that kindness and love spills over into your relationships with others. Louise Hay's teachings remind us that we have the power to change our lives and our relationships. We don't have to wait for others to change or for the perfect person to come along. We can start right now by changing how we think about ourselves. As we explore Louise Hay's ideas about relationships, remember that this is a journey. Learning to focus on yourself and love yourself more deeply takes time and practice. But the rewards are worth it. By following Louise Hay's principle of focusing on yourself, you can create more loving, fulfilling relationships in all areas of your life. In the next sections, we'll look at practical ways to apply Louise Hay's ideas to your own life and relationships. We'll explore how to build self-love, use positive self-talk, let go of blame, and accept yourself and others. These tools can help you transform your relationships from the inside out, creating the loving connections you've always wanted. Remember, the journey to better relationships starts with you. By focusing on your own growth and self-love, you're not being selfish. You're creating a foundation for healthier, happier relationships with everyone in your life. So let's dive in and discover how you can use Louise Hay's powerful principles to transform your relationships and your life. To understand how focusing on yourself can improve your relationships, it helps to think of relationships as a mirror. This mirror reflects back to you your own thoughts, feelings, and beliefs about yourself. It's a powerful idea that can change how you see all your interactions with others. When you look in a real mirror, what do you see? You see a reflection of yourself, right? But have you ever noticed that your mood can change how you see yourself in that mirror? On a good day, when you're feeling confident and happy, you might look in the mirror and think, "I look great today." But on a bad day, when you're feeling down, you might look in the same mirror and only see flaws. Your relationships work in a similar way. They reflect back to you how you feel about yourself. If you have a lot of self-doubt and negative thoughts about yourself, you might find that your relationships are full of doubt and negativity too. You might always be worried that people don't really like you, or you might find yourself in relationships where you're not treated well. On the other hand, if you have a positive view of yourself and treat yourself with love and respect, your relationships often reflect that back to you. You might find that people treat you with more kindness and respect. You might feel more confident in your interactions and have an easier time forming deep, meaningful connections. This mirror effect happens because how we feel about ourselves shapes how we act in our relationships. If you don't believe you deserve love and respect, you might accept poor treatment from others. You might have a hard time setting boundaries or speaking up for yourself. But when you truly love and value yourself, you naturally expect better treatment from others. You're more likely to choose relationships that are healthy and positive. The mirror of relationships doesn't just reflect your self-image. It also reflects your expectations and beliefs about relationships in general. If you believe that relationships are always hard work and full of conflict, guess what? You're likely to experience relationships that are difficult and argumentative. But if you believe that relationships can be joyful, supportive, and loving, you're more likely to create and attract those kinds of relationships in your life. Understanding this mirror effect is crucial because it shows us where we need to focus our efforts if we want better relationships. Instead of trying to change the reflection, other people and their behavior, we need to change what's being reflected, our own thoughts, beliefs, and actions. This is why Louise Hay's principle of focusing on yourself is so powerful. When you work on loving and accepting yourself, when you change your negative self-talk to positive affirmations, when you treat yourself with kindness and respect, you change what's being reflected in the mirror of your relationships. You start to see positive changes in how others treat you and how you interact with the world. It's important to remember that this mirror effect doesn't mean you're to blame for all the problems in your relationships. Other people are still responsible for their own actions. But by understanding the mirror of relationships, you realize that you have more power than you might have thought. You can change your relationships by changing yourself. This mirror principle applies to all types of relationships, romantic partners, friends, family, even work relationships. In each of these areas, what you see reflected back to you is often a reflection of how you feel about yourself and what you believe you deserve. For example, if you have a boss who never seems to appreciate your work, you might want to look at how much you appreciate yourself. Do you acknowledge your own hard work and achievements? Or do you tend to downplay your successes? By starting to recognize and appreciate your own efforts, you might find that others, including your boss, start to acknowledge your contributions more. Or think about friendships. If you find that your friends often take advantage of your kindness, it might be because you haven't set clear boundaries. This could be a reflection of not valuing your own time and energy enough. As you start to value yourself more and set healthy boundaries, you might see your friendships become more balanced and respectful. The beautiful thing about the mirror of relationships is that small changes can lead to big results. You don't have to completely transform yourself overnight. Even small steps towards self-love and self-respect can start to shift your relationships in a positive direction. So, as we continue to explore Louise Hay's ideas about focusing on yourself in relationships, keep this mirror principle in mind. Remember that the changes you want to see in your relationships often start with changes in how you treat yourself. By loving and respecting yourself more, you create a new reflection in the mirror of your relationships, one filled with more love, respect, and positivity. Now that we understand how our relationships reflect our relationship with ourselves, let's talk about one of the most important aspects of focusing on yourself: self-love. Self-love is at the heart of Louise Hay's teachings, and it's a crucial part of improving your relationships. But what exactly is self-love? It's not about being selfish or thinking you're better than others. Self-love means treating yourself with the same kindness, compassion, and respect that you would offer to a good friend. It's about accepting yourself fully, flaws and all, and believing that you are worthy of love and happiness. Many of us find it easier to love others than to love ourselves. We might be quick to offer comfort and support to a friend who's feeling down, but when we're struggling, we're often our own harshest critics. We might have a constant stream of negative thoughts running through our heads, telling us we're not good enough, smart enough, or attractive enough. Louise Hay believed that these negative thoughts and lack of self-love were at the root of many of our problems, including our relationship issues. She taught that by learning to love ourselves, we could transform our lives and our relationships. So how does self-love improve your relationships? When you love yourself, you set the standard for how others should treat you. You're less likely to accept poor treatment or stay in unhealthy relationships because you know you deserve better. You're also better able to love others genuinely, without neediness or fear, because your own emotional needs are being met by yourself. Self-love also helps you to be more authentic in your relationships. When you accept and love yourself, you're not trying to be someone you're not to please others. You can show up as your true self, which allows for deeper, more meaningful connections. Moreover, when you love yourself, you have more love to give to others. It's like filling up your own cup first so that you can pour into others' cups without depleting yourself. This leads to more balanced, giving relationships where you're not constantly seeking validation or approval from others. But how do you develop self-love, especially if you've spent years being critical of yourself? Here are some practical steps you can take. Practice positive self-talk. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. When you catch yourself thinking negative thoughts about yourself, gently challenge them. Replace critical thoughts with kind, loving ones. For example, instead of thinking, "I'm so stupid for making that mistake," try, "I'm human and humans make mistakes. I can learn from this." Take care of your body. Self-love includes caring for your physical self. Eat nourishing foods, get enough sleep, exercise in ways that feel good to you. Treat your body with respect and care. Set boundaries. Learning to say no to things that don't serve you is an act of self-love. It shows that you value your time and energy. Forgive yourself. We all make mistakes. Practice forgiving yourself just as you would forgive a friend. Remember, forgiveness doesn't mean you approve of what happened. It means you're letting go of the negative emotions attached to it. Celebrate your achievements. Take time to acknowledge your successes, big and small. Be proud of your accomplishments. Spend time alone. Get to know yourself better by spending quality time alone. Do things you enjoy without needing to please anyone else. Use positive affirmations. Louise Hay was a big believer in the power of affirmations. These are positive statements you repeat to yourself to change your beliefs. For example, I am worthy of love and respect. Or, I love and accept myself exactly as I am. Practice self-compassion. When you're going through a hard time, treat yourself with the same compassion you'd show a good friend. Be gentle with yourself. Remember, developing self-love is a journey, not a destination. It's something you practice every day. Some days will be easier than others, and that's okay. The important thing is to keep working at it. As you develop more self-love, you'll likely start to notice changes in your relationships. You might find that you attract people who treat you with more respect and kindness. You might feel more confident in expressing your needs and feelings. Your relationships might become more balanced, with give and take on both sides. You might also notice that some relationships change or even end as you develop more self-love. This can be scary, but it's often a positive sign. It means you're no longer accepting relationships that don't serve your highest good. Self-love is like a superpower in your relationships. It gives you the strength to be authentic, to set healthy boundaries, and to create the kind of loving, respectful relationships you deserve. By focusing on loving yourself first, you're not being selfish. You're creating a strong foundation for all your relationships to flourish. Remember, as Louise Hay often said, you have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. As you continue on this journey of self-love, be patient and kind with yourself. Every step you take towards loving yourself more is a step towards healthier, happier relationships with others. When it comes to improving our relationships by focusing on ourselves, one of the most powerful tools we have is our own inner voice. This is what Louise Hay called self-talk, and it plays a huge role in shaping our self-image and, by extension, our relationships with others. Think about it. We talk to ourselves all day long. From the moment we wake up to the time we go to sleep, we have a constant stream of thoughts running through our heads. These thoughts can be positive or negative, supportive or critical. And here's the important part. The way we talk to ourselves affects how we feel about ourselves, which in turn affects how we interact with others. If your self-talk is mostly negative, you might find yourself thinking things like, I'm not good enough, nobody really likes me, or I always mess things up. This kind of negative self-talk can lead to low self-esteem, anxiety, and a fear of rejection. In relationships, this might make you overly needy, afraid to speak up for yourself, or quick to assume the worst about others' intentions. On the other hand, positive self-talk can boost your confidence, improve your mood, and help you approach relationships from a place of strength and self-assurance. When you regularly tell yourself things like, I am worthy of love and respect, I have valuable things to offer in my relationships, or I can handle challenges that come my way, you're building a strong foundation for healthy relationships. Louise Hay believed strongly in the power of affirmations, positive statements that you repeat to yourself to change your beliefs and attitudes. She taught that by changing our thoughts, we could change our lives. This applies to our relationships too. By changing how we talk to ourselves about ourselves and our relationships, we can change the dynamics of those relationships. Here's a simple exercise. You can try to start improving your self-talk. For one day, pay close attention to your inner dialogue. Notice the things you say to yourself, especially about yourself and your relationships. Write down some of the negative thoughts you catch yourself thinking. For each negative thought, try to come up with a positive alternative. For example, if you caught yourself thinking, "I'm so awkward in social situations," you might change that to, "I'm learning and improving my social skills every day." Practice saying these positive statements to yourself, especially when you notice the negative thoughts creeping in. Remember, changing your self-talk takes time and practice. You've probably been thinking certain thoughts about yourself for years, so be patient with yourself as you work on changing them. The key is consistency. Keep practicing your positive self-talk every day. As you work on improving your self-talk, you might start to notice changes in your relationships. You might feel more confident in social situations. You might find it easier to express your needs and feelings to others. You might even notice that people respond to you differently, picking up on your increased self-assurance and positivity. Positive self-talk isn't about denying reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about approaching yourself and your life with kindness and optimism. When you do this, you create a positive ripple effect that touches all your relationships. One of the biggest obstacles to improving our relationships is the habit of blame. It's so easy to point fingers when things go wrong. We might blame our partner for not understanding us, our friends for not being there for us, or our parents for how they raised us. But Louise Hay taught that blame is like a prison that keeps us stuck in negative patterns. When we blame others for our relationship problems, we give away our power to make changes. We put ourselves in the position of a victim, waiting for someone else to change so that we can be happy. But here's the truth. We can't control other people or make them change. The only person we have control over is ourselves. Letting go of blame doesn't mean excusing bad behavior or staying in unhealthy situations. Instead, it means taking responsibility for our own happiness and well-being. It means recognizing that while we can't control others' actions, we can control our own responses and choices. Here's an example of how blame can hold us back in relationships. Imagine you're in a relationship where you feel your partner doesn't listen to you. You might blame them, thinking, "If only they would listen better, our relationship would be great." But by focusing all your energy on what your partner should be doing differently, you miss the opportunity to look at your own communication style. Maybe you could learn to express yourself more clearly or choose better times to have important conversations. Letting go of blame opens up new possibilities. Instead of waiting for others to change, you can ask yourself, what can I do differently? How can I respond in a way that's true to myself and might improve this situation? Here are some steps you can take to start letting go of blame in your relationships. Notice when you're blaming. The first step is becoming aware of when you're falling into the blame trap. Pay attention to your thoughts and words. Are you often saying or thinking things like, "It's all their fault," or "if only they would"? Take responsibility for your feelings. Instead of saying, "You made me feel angry," try saying, "I feel angry." This small change in language puts you back in control of your emotions. Look for your role. In any relationship issue, try to honestly assess if there's anything you might be contributing to the problem. This doesn't mean taking all the blame, just recognizing that relationships involve two people. Focus on solutions. Instead of dwelling on who's at fault, turn your attention to what can be done to improve the situation. Ask yourself, what's one small step I can take to make this better? Practice forgiveness. Holding on to blame often means holding on to anger and resentment. Learning to forgive both others and yourself can free you from these negative emotions and open the door to healing. Learn from experiences. Instead of blaming yourself or others for past mistakes, try to view difficult experiences as opportunities for growth and learning. Remember, letting go of blame is a process. You might find yourself slipping back into old blame patterns sometimes, and that's okay. The important thing is to keep practicing and moving forward. As you work on letting go of blame, you might notice some powerful changes in your relationships. You might feel more empowered and less like a victim. Your relationships might become more collaborative, with both people taking responsibility for making things work. You might find it easier to resolve conflicts since you're focused on solutions rather than accusations. Letting go of blame is a key step in taking control of your own happiness in relationships. It allows you to focus your energy on the things you can change, your own thoughts, feelings, and actions, rather than wasting energy trying to change others. Acceptance is a powerful force in relationships, and it starts with accepting yourself. Louise Hay often spoke about the importance of self-acceptance, saying, "You've been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens." Self-acceptance means embracing all parts of yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses, your successes and your failures. It's about recognizing that you are a valuable, worthy person, exactly as you are right now. This doesn't mean you can't strive to improve or grow, but it does mean that your worth isn't dependent on being perfect or achieving certain things. When you accept yourself fully, it becomes much easier to accept others. Think about it. When we're hard on ourselves, judging our own flaws harshly, we tend to be just as critical of others. But when we learn to be kind and accepting towards ourselves, that kindness naturally extends to our relationships with others. Here's how self-acceptance can improve your relationships. It reduces the need for approval. When you accept yourself, you're less dependent on others' approval for your self-worth. This can lead to more authentic, less needy relationships. It allows for vulnerability. Accepting all parts of yourself makes it easier to be vulnerable with others, which is key for building deep, meaningful connections. It improves communication. When you're not afraid to acknowledge your own faults or mistakes, it becomes easier to have honest, open conversations in your relationships. It increases empathy. Understanding and accepting your own struggles makes it easier to empathize with others' challenges. So how can you practice self-acceptance? Here are some ideas. Practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself as you would to a good friend. Be kind and understanding, especially when you're going through difficult times. Acknowledge your strengths. Make a list of your positive qualities and achievements. Remind yourself of these regularly. Accept compliments. Instead of brushing off compliments, practice simply saying thank you and letting the positive words sink in. Embrace your imperfections. Remember that imperfections are what make us human. They're not flaws to be fixed, but part of what makes you uniquely you. Use positive affirmations. Try saying things like, I accept myself exactly as I am, or I am worthy of love and respect just as I am. As you work on accepting yourself, you'll likely find it easier to accept others too. Acceptance doesn't mean you have to like everything about a person or agree with all their actions. It simply means recognizing and respecting them as they are, without trying to change them. Less conflict. When you're not trying to change people, there's naturally less friction in your relationships. Deeper connections. Accepting people as they are allows for more authentic, honest interactions. Greater understanding. When you accept others, you're more likely to listen and try to understand their perspective, even when it differs from your own. More compassion. Accepting others' flaws and struggles can increase your compassion and empathy. Here are some ways to practice accepting others. Listen without judgment. Try to really hear what others are saying without immediately evaluating or criticizing their words. Appreciate differences. Instead of being frustrated by how someone is different from you, try to appreciate the unique perspective they bring. Let go of the need to be right. In disagreements, focus on understanding rather than winning the argument. Practice empathy. Try to put yourself in the other person's shoes and understand their feelings and motivations. Acknowledge others' right to their own path. Remember that everyone is on their own journey, and it's not your job to control or direct others' lives. As you practice accepting yourself and others, you might notice your relationships becoming more relaxed, more genuine, and more fulfilling. You might find yourself feeling more at peace, both with yourself and in your interactions with others. Remember, acceptance is not about resigning yourself to bad situations or tolerating harmful behavior. It's about seeing things clearly as they are, without the distortions of judgment or the need to change everything. From this place of clarity and acceptance, you can make wise decisions about your relationships and your life. Acceptance, both of yourself and others, is a powerful tool for transforming your relationships. It creates a foundation of respect, understanding, and authenticity that allows love and connection to flourish. As Louise Hay said, when we really love ourselves, everything in our life works. This includes our relationships with others. Now that we've explored Louise Hay's principles for improving relationships by focusing on yourself, let me share a personal story that illustrates how powerful this approach can be. A few years ago, I found myself constantly frustrated with my relationships. I felt like my friends weren't supportive enough, my family didn't understand me, and my romantic relationships always seemed to end in disappointment. I was always looking for what others were doing wrong, always waiting for them to change so I could be happy. Then I came across Louise Hay's teachings, and it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I realized that I had been so focused on others that I had neglected my relationship with myself. I decided to give her ideas a try, even though it felt strange at first to focus on myself instead of trying to fix others. I started small with daily affirmations. Every morning, I would look in the mirror and say, I love and accept myself exactly as I am. At first, it felt awkward, and I didn't really believe it. But I kept at it, day after day. Slowly, I started to notice changes. As I began to accept myself more, I found that I was less critical of others. I started to set better boundaries, saying no to things that didn't serve me instead of always trying to please everyone else. I practiced positive self-talk, catching my negative thoughts and replacing them with kinder ones. One of the biggest changes was letting go of blame. Instead of getting angry at my friend for being late, I would ask myself, how can I respond to this in a way that's true to myself but doesn't create more negativity? This shift in perspective made a huge difference in how I approach conflicts. Over time, I noticed my relationships starting to change. As I became more confident and self-assured, I attracted people who respected me more. My friendships became deeper and more authentic because I was being more genuine myself. Even my family relationships improved as I learned to accept them as they were instead of wishing they were different. But the biggest change was in how I felt. I was happier, more at peace with myself and others. I realized that by focusing on loving and accepting myself, I had naturally become better at loving and accepting others too. This experience taught me that Louise Hay was right. The relationship we have with ourselves is the foundation for all our other relationships. By focusing on ourselves, we're not being selfish. We're creating a strong base from which we can build healthier, happier connections with others. Now that we've explored Louise Hay's principles and seen how they can work in real life, let's talk about how you can apply these ideas in your own relationships. Remember, this is a journey, and it takes time and practice to see results. Be patient with yourself as you try these techniques. Start a self-love routine. Set aside time each day for self-care and self-love practices. This could be as simple as looking in the mirror each morning and saying something kind to yourself, or taking a few minutes to write down things you appreciate about yourself. Practice mindful self-talk. Pay attention to your inner dialogue throughout the day. When you catch yourself thinking negatively about yourself or others, pause and reframe those thoughts in a more positive, compassionate way. Use affirmations. Choose a few positive affirmations that resonate with you and repeat them daily. Some examples might be, I am worthy of love and respect. I attract healthy, positive relationships. Or, I am becoming more confident and self-assured every day. Set healthy boundaries. Practice saying no to things that don't align with your values or that drain your energy. Remember, setting boundaries is an act of self-love and respect. Practice acceptance. When you find yourself wanting to change someone else, pause and ask yourself, can I accept this person as they are right now? This doesn't mean tolerating harmful behavior, but rather letting go of the need to control or change others. Take responsibility for your feelings. Instead of blaming others for how you feel, own your emotions. Use I statements like, I feel hurt when, instead of, you made me feel. Cultivate gratitude. Regularly acknowledge the good things in your life and relationships. This can help shift your focus from what's wrong to what's right. Seek growth opportunities. Instead of seeing challenges in your relationships as problems, try to view them as opportunities for personal growth and learning. Practice empathy. Try to see things from others' perspectives, even when you disagree. This can help foster understanding and compassion in your relationships. Reflect and adjust. Regularly take time to reflect on your relationships and your own behavior. Be willing to adjust your approach as you learn and grow. Remember, The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Every small step you take towards loving and accepting yourself more fully is a step towards healthier, happier relationships with others. As we wrap up our exploration of Louise Hay's principles for improving relationships by focusing on yourself, let's take a moment to reflect on the key ideas we've discussed. We've learned that our relationships are often a mirror, reflecting back to us our own thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes about ourselves. By changing our inner world, our self-talk, our self-acceptance, and our self-love, we can profoundly impact our outer world of relationships. We've explored the power of positive self-talk and affirmations and how they can boost our confidence and change the way we interact with others. We've discussed the importance of letting go of blame, taking responsibility for our own happiness, and focusing on what we can change, ourselves, rather than trying to change others. We've also delved into the transformative power of acceptance, both of ourselves and others. By learning to embrace all parts of ourselves and to accept others as they are, we open the door to more authentic, fulfilling relationships. Remember, this approach to relationships isn't about being selfish or ignoring others' needs. It's about creating a strong foundation of self-love and self-respect from which you can build healthy, positive connections with others. It's about filling your own cup first, so you have more to give to others. As you move forward from here, I encourage you to be patient and kind with yourself. Changing long-standing patterns of thought and behavior takes time. There may be setbacks along the way, and that's okay. What matters is that you keep moving forward, one small step at a time. Start with one or two of the practices we've discussed. Maybe it's daily affirmations, or practicing self-acceptance, or working on letting go of blame. Choose what resonates most with you and make it a regular part of your routine. As you get comfortable with these new habits, you can gradually incorporate more. Remember Louise Hay's words, "You have been criticizing yourself for years and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens." As you learn to love and accept yourself more fully, you may be amazed at how your relationships transform. Your journey to better relationships starts with you. By focusing on your relationship with yourself, you're not just improving your own life, you're creating a ripple effect that can positively impact all your relationships and even inspire others to do the same. So take that first step, look in the mirror, and offer yourself a word of kindness. Set a healthy boundary. Practice accepting yourself or someone else exactly as they are right now. Every small action you take towards loving yourself is a step towards healthier, happier relationships with others. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Louise Hay's powerful principles. May your journey of self-love and self-discovery lead you to the fulfilling, joyful relationships you deserve. Remember, you have the power to change your life and your relationships. It all starts with you.